Yes, I'll get you in a couple seconds, Mr. Genuis. Welcome to meeting number 8, the House of Commons Standing Committee on Government Operations Estimates, known as the Mighty OGO Committee. So nice they named it twice. Meeting request pursuant to Standing Order 1064 to discuss a request to undertake a study of Stellantis. Pursuant to a Standing Order 1064, the committee is meeting to consider the request by members of the committee to undertake a study of Stellantis. The request was distributed by the clerk last Friday. Mr. Genuis, you have your hand up. Go ahead. We'll start a speaking list. Ms. Suds, Ms. Gasparo, Ms. Kirkland.
Thank you, Chair. We are here to...
Just want to add my name to the...
Oh, yes. Yes, thanks.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay.
Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I hope we're not already seeing planning for a filibuster with every single Liberal member getting themselves on the speaking list, but I'll look forward to hearing what they have to say. We are here to fight for Canadian jobs. Last week, workers in Brampton got devastating news. Canadians are already struggling in so many ways because of the cost of living crisis, the crime crisis, and we increasingly see this escalating job loss crisis, continuing increases in the unemployment rate, and now this announcement from Stellantis leading to over 3,000 jobs lost. It's important to underline that this is a company, Stellantis, that has gotten over $10 billion in subsidies from taxpayers, and yet, in spite of those subsidies, is announcing killing over 3,000 Canadian jobs, sending them south of the border. We know that the Trump administration has met with the Prime Minister last week, and yet. Less than a week after that meeting, we have more announcements of more jobs getting killed in Canada and sent across the border. So, as we fight for Canadian jobs, it is important to know what exactly were in these contracts signed between the government and Stellantis that led to these subsidies. In the process of forking over billions of dollars to these companies, did the government negotiate as part of these contracts the protection of Canadian jobs or not? This is what we need to know to hold the appropriate people accountable. And the question for the government is, will they support our efforts to get to the bottom of what happened here by helping us get these contracts? Or will they act to block the exposure of these contracts? So we're going to move a motion today ordering to this committee these contracts. And I am confident that a majority of members of this committee want to see these contracts. But it will be up to the government whether they work with other parliamentarians to help us fight for Canadian jobs, or whether they run interference on behalf of this company. And let's be clear, the only reason to filibuster to block the exposure of these contracts would be to protect this company that is moving jobs out of Canada to the United States. If the government cares about Canadian jobs, I hope they will come with us, work with us, and we will see how they respond. Our motion, Chair, is as follows: that an order to issue for the production of copies of any contract, memorandum of understanding, or any other agreement entered into by any minister, department, agency, or Crown Corporation of the Government of Canada since November 4th, 2015, related to the manufacture of automobiles at the Brampton Assembly Plant in Brampton, Ontario, with any of Stellantis NV, Stellantis North America, FCA US LLC, Stellantis Canada Inc., FCA Canada Inc., Fiat Chrysler Automobile NV, Nexstar Energy Inc., Volta Energy Solutions Canada Inc., any of those companies' subsidiaries, or any other company which are not at arm's length from those companies, provided that these documents shall be deposited with the clerk of the committee within 2 weeks in both official languages and without redaction. Monsieur le Président, j'ai l'impression que cette motion.
Mr. Chairman, I believe this motion was distributed in both official languages, which the interpreters don't have, and I cannot imagine any reason for any delay.
This motion has been distributed to members of the committee in both official languages, so I see no reason for any delay. This motion orders that the contracts be given to the committee. Notably, it does not contain language around the automatic release. It simply orders that the documents be handed over to the committee so that the committee has a chance to review them and consider additional steps. We've seen taxpayers give over $10 billion to this company. Meanwhile, they just announced killing over 3,000 jobs. We would expect that companies that receive these massive public subsidies would be creating jobs in Canada, not killing jobs in Canada. And that's why we need to see these contracts. Again, I will see no reason that this would be delayed. It's a straightforward motion, and it's supported by the majority of the committee. So I hope it will pass promptly so that we can get on with the important work of examining these contracts. Mr. Chair, I'll yield the floor at this time.
Generous. We'll go to Ms. Sudds. Before we start, we'll continue a practice from the last session. I will inform who's the next speaker after that. And then otherwise, it's your responsibility to put up your hand to get on the speakers list. So after Ms. Sudds, we have Mr. Gasparo. Ms. Sudds.
Thank you very much, Chair, and happy to be here today to discuss such an important issue to Canadian taxpayers. I appreciate that the motion was circulated this morning and has just been read in. I would like to propose or table an amendment to the motion. It has been forwarded to the clerk in both official languages, but we might want to, I can read it out in the meantime while we distribute it to the committee. Sure. So the amendment is simply at the end of the existing motion to remove and without redaction and to add.
Oh, sorry, please.
Sorry, I'm just getting it up on my screen here. So as I said, at the end of the current motion to remove and without redaction and to add, and that the departments and agencies tasked with gathering these documents apply redactions to protect cabinet confidences, respect privacy legislation, and protect sensitive commercial interests.
So we'll start with Mr. Generous. I'll give you a few moments before it comes out. This is a very, very small room, and I think we normally have some banter back and forth, but just keep in mind it's a very small room. You'll speak after Mr.
Yeah. Chair, we've been through this rodeo before, and I'm sorry to see the government proposing an amendment that would effectively undermine the entire objective of this motion. This motion is to order the contracts full stop so that we can get to the bottom of why 3,000 jobs are being killed, more than 3,000 jobs, in spite of the billions of dollars in taxpayer subsidies. And the Liberals are putting forward an amendment which would effectively give them wide discretion to redact from these documents, and it would give them the discretion to do that. The proposed for redactions are not redactions that would be done by independent entities. Their proposal gives full discretion to the government to redact what they want, using fairly broad room for justifications. This would prevent the committee from actually scrutinizing the contracts as they are. Now, let me underline, Mr. Speaker, that Mr. Chair, that the motion we put forward does not call for the immediate release of these contracts. It calls for the full contracts to be given to the committee. The committee would have then reasonable discretion and would, I believe, use its powers responsibly to look at what's in these contracts, to consider the various issues and implications of releasing information and releasing information to the degree that is appropriate. But what the Parliament Secretary has proposed is to prevent the committee, even in private, from having access to this information. Now, I'll make a few points with respect to this. As members know or should know, committees' powers to send for documents are limitless. The Privacy Act contains specific exemption language exempting documents that are ordered by a body such as this. And again, the other issues could be taken into the consideration, likely would be taken into consideration by the committee when deciding what and how to release these documents. But parliamentarians need to see these documents in order to do their work properly. So I'm disappointed that not entirely surprised, but disappointed that Liberals are putting forward this amendment, which would effectively neuter this motion. We are opposed to this amendment, and we will continue to fight for Canadian jobs by seeking the full unredacted documents without giving the government the discretion to redact whatever they feel like. Thank you.
Mr. Gasparo, and then we'll have Ms. Kirkland and Ms. Goodrow. Sorry, go ahead, sir.
There you go.
There we go. Just getting used to this new room, Chair. The honourable member, in his opening remarks, talked about Canadian workers, and him and I have got to spend a little bit of time together before this committee, and I know I fully actually agree with him on protecting Canadian workers and doing what's right for them. So I completely agree with you. When you listen to some folks from Ontario, conservatives like Premier Doug Ford, like Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown, they clearly lay the blame for this on the unjustified tariffs that President Trump has put on our country. Direct quote from Patrick Brown is, and I have it here, Stellantis, this is direct quote, Stellantis is bowing at the Trump administration via these bullying tactics. So I think we need to keep that piece in mind. In regards to the documents themselves, if the documents are released, it quite frankly would damage Canada's standing in the marketplace. When the government of Canada engages in agreements, regardless of which party is in office, they are trying, and we are trying, to attract foreign direct investment, where large publicly traded companies are looking to build manufacturing plants that would create hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs. They have to know that commercially sensitive terms and conditions do not make it into the marketplace. And that comes to the full standing and credit of the government of Canada. So it is absolutely critical that any documents that are released are redacted for these very commercially sensitive bits of information. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gasparo. Well, now, Ms. Kirkland, welcome to OGO. Be yourself, and then be Ms. Goodrow after that, and then Ms. Jansen.
Thank you. I appreciate being here on behalf of workers, and specifically auto workers. And Mr. Chair, that's why I'm sitting here at this committee today, to speak for auto workers. I feel strongly, it's been said many times in the House, that this government stands with auto workers, and I said in the House that it feels a whole lot like the auto workers they're standing with are U.S. auto workers. And with a redacted contracts, we as parliamentarians cannot possibly do our work effectively. With all due respect to the member across, saying things like, Stellantis is bowing to the Trump administration, I think perhaps they feel they have to because the Prime Minister continues to bow to the Trump administration. And auto workers in Oshawa, Brampton, Windsor, across Ontario and across the country feel like their jobs don't matter. They feel like they are on the chopping block at the risk in order to make some sort of other deal, and that their jobs don't matter. I spoke this morning to my local Unifor president, and I can tell you they feel like they're being left behind and that they're not cared about whatsoever. The 3,000 people that are losing their jobs have mortgages to pay. They have perhaps kids in hockey. These aren't numbers. These are people. These are families. And so I would very strongly ask that this committee vote in favor of the original motion, unamended, so that we can do the job as parliamentarians, so that Canadians are no longer paying for U.S. auto jobs, because Canadian taxpayers, if this happens, are essentially paying for U.S. auto jobs, and something has to be done to make sure that doesn't happen and that those jobs stay here in Canada.
Madame Gaudreau.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to get back to the statements made in the last report. Can you hear the interpreter? I'll start over when you tell me that it's working. Yes, I'll start over. Of course, it's important. I'd like to get back to the highlights of the last report that date back to September 2023.
A couple of us are having problems. Just bear with us a couple seconds. We'll start at the beginning.
How do you get the channel? Yeah, I think that's the problem, is finding the channel. These are different.
Mettez pas ça sur espagnol.
Don't put it on Spanish, please.
Ça marche pas.
J'irai pas là. Alors, on va refaire une...
Okay, we'll try again. So I want to say congratulations on your work, bravo. And I know that sometimes you don't have the motion, so it would be a good idea for them to get it when we get it. So they systematically get the motions in order to read it properly. They had not received it at the time we were discussing it.
Excellent,
Thanks for your
oui.
patience.
Alors,
Okay, so I want to get back to the 2023 report from the Parliamentary Budget Officer, and I will read the highlights here. The federal government and the Government of Ontario announced subsidies for maximum $15 billion for Stellantis Energy Solutions, and according to the estimates of the federal government, this measure brings announced production by Stellantis and VW to $28 billion by the end of 2032. Where I have questions about the reason why we're here today is that the Parliamentary Budget Officer feels that federal government and provincial government receipts generated by battery plants, Volkswagen, from 2024 to 2043 will be equivalent to the amount of the subsidies for production over a period, a waiting period, and this is what's important here, of 20 years for it to become profitable. So what I'm wondering here at OGO, our role is to ensure, of course, that public funds are not only properly managed, but in an economic situation where there are jobs at stake, initially there was a possibility to make this profitable. Now we have to admit that it's very worrisome. I just came from Laurentides-Labelle this weekend, And people are worried about every dollar, every single dollar in their pocket. So, with all due respect to the investments made, the economic situation, and I understand that we have to be vigilant about the information that's disclosed so that we can continue to have good relationships on the international scene. I'm a businesswoman, I understand this, but I do have questions. When it's not a third party who's collecting all the documents and compiling them to make sure that we really have everything we need here at OGO. Mr. Chairman, I will even say this. I experienced this in another firm a few years ago, and we even managed to consult confidential documents in an environment where we were allowed to take notes. We couldn't use our devices, our phones, but truly, I am sensitive to this, all these commercial transactions, but I am so very concerned about the rights of the taxpayer here. I can't tell you exactly how I'll vote yet. I want to hear my colleagues, because this guarantee of getting everything we need, I'm really worried about that.
Ms. Jansen, and then that's the end of our speaking list.
You know, folks, it's pretty simple. When government cuts these massive deals with big corporations, the least they can do is be honest with the people footing the $15 billion bill. We need to see what's actually agreed to. No more hiding behind commercial confidentiality and cabinet confidence. There is no public defense for keeping those contracts secret. Because at the end of the day, it's not the CEOs or politicians who worry about putting food on the table. It's the workers. It's the families who built these towns and who've been waiting for that plant to open. So let me ask you this. Are you on the side of workers and taxpayers who are fighting to keep jobs here in Canada, or on the side of the corporations taking public money to build factories in the U.S.? That's my question.
Thank you. Seeing no one else in the speakers list, we'll go to a vote on the amendment.
Mr. Gasparo? Yes. Sorry. I thought that was clear.
Come on, Vince, come on.
Mr. Létard?
It's on the line there.
Yes. Madame Rochefort? Oui. Ms. Sodds?
Yes.
Mr. Janice?
No.
Ms. Jensen?
No.
Ms. Kirkland?
No.
Madame Gaudreau?
Non.
OK, so yeas pour 4, 4. Nays contre 4, 4.
I will say no. The amendment's defeated. We'll go back to our speaking order. I have Mr. Gasparo and then Ms. Kirkland.
So, and I said this in my opening remarks, and it paired off on what the honourable member on the other side led off with, which is if we are to continue to attract foreign direct investment into our country and have companies come to Canada, invest great deal of money, employing hundreds, if not thousands of people, they have to know when they sign an agreement with the government of Canada that that the commercially sensitive pieces of that agreement are kept confidential. And that is the only way we will continue to attract that foreign direct investment. If they can't trust that we are going to keep items confidential, commercially sensitive items confidential, they won't come here. And that sucking sound that we hear going to the United States currently will be enhanced. And we cannot allow that to happen. And it doesn't matter which party is in government, Mr. Chair. It doesn't matter. This will impact our country for decades. And my concern is for future generations of workers. My kids, I know members on this committee have kids. Are we going to roll the dice on attracting foreign direct investment because they believe that some committee at some point, may be able to show commercially sensitive information that can move markets and damage Canada's reputation within capital markets, but within the labor market more broadly. So I just, and I share a lot of the concern that my honourable colleagues within the Conservative Party and the Bloc have raised around workers. But we need to look long term. All of you are very smart people. I have a lot of respect for you. And if, a short term, opportunity here to request documents could damage our country for decades and damage our ability to continue to attract these jobs from around the world. And like I said, regardless of which party's in office. So I urge you, please, to reconsider your position about redacting the commercially sensitive pieces of these contracts, or maybe there's some other agreement we can come to. But to just ask for a full release of documents into the public could damage our credibility as a country and impact future jobs that we would be able to attract. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gasparo. We have Ms. Kirkland and then Mr. Letteo.
Thank you. When I think about the sensitive commercial interests, I'm sensitive to that. But I feel what outweighs that is the fact that Canadians have invested $15 million in U.S. jobs if this continues. So Stellantis chose to make a decision primarily because our Prime Minister has failed to get a deal, which he's been promising, deals on tariffs since July, said it would be July 21st. We're now just about to November, and we don't have it. So, members opposite were correct when they said, they're bowing to the U.S., they're bowing to Trump because of tariffs. Well, let's stop putting auto on the chopping block when we're negotiating a deal and negotiate a win for Ontario and for Canada. The choice to Canadians deserve answers. I know in the previous Parliament this was asked for. Previous committees, I believe it was asked that the contracts be released, that we see what the deal was. Were there any assurances in that deal that jobs would stay in Canada? Canadians deserve to know that. It was asked in the last Parliament. It was denied in the last Parliament in a committee. Okay, let's bend for not happening in the 44th Parliament in those times. But times have changed. We are now dealing with a situation that requires Canadians to know the truth. This is their money. It's not ours here at the committee table. It's the money of Canadians. $15 billion. What are we getting for it? 3,000 U.S. auto jobs? Or do we get to have our 3,000 Canadian auto jobs? And those of us from auto towns know those 3,000 jobs aren't just 3,000 jobs. Probably we're looking at double on the supply chain. So this can have catastrophic effect. We need to know what they promised, what that they were assured. This has to happen. There's no way around it. And quite frankly, the time is now that this has to happen. And Stellantis took that risk, in my opinion, for their commercial interests to be displayed their sensitive commercial interests when they decided to take jobs out of Canada, I feel like. But the truth is, we deserve to know. We need to fight for Canadian jobs. How are we going to do it? Parliamentarians need to know this information. We need to know what the contracts were. Now is the time. I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Leteau, please. Welcome to OGO, sir.
Thank
The floor
you.
is yours.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you. Bonjour tout le monde.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me here. First of all, I'd like to emphasize what Mr. Gasparo said earlier, a few moments ago. The importance of confidentiality of commercial contracts. But before I talk about that,
Here. I think we all here on both sides of this House, we all want what's best for Canada. We all want what's best for Canadian workers. Right from the start, we said that we would be assisting, helping Canadian companies, big and small, navigate through this very complex and difficult time created by the United States, not by us. Let's get this clear. It's the United States government that has come up with these tariffs, and their objective, and they said it very clearly, Mr. Lutnick said it not long ago, is to repatriate manufacturing production as much as possible to the United States. That's their objective. That's what we are facing. We are not helping them do that. We are fighting against that. To achieve results, what is necessary in our view is, despite the provocations, because that's what they are, we continue to talk to our counterparts in the United States. We have been able to obtain something that nobody else has obtained, which is a CUSMA carve-out. So goods that are compliant with CUSMA can cross the border tariff-free. However, we do have a number of strategic sectors that are not covered by the CUSMA carve-out: steel, aluminum, autos, softwood lumber. So what the government is trying to accomplish with the negotiations is going along a two-track road, if you will. On the one hand, maintain the CUSMA carve-out.
Point of order, Chair.
I'm explaining something.
Chair.
Sorry. Point of order. Go ahead, Mr. Jennings.
Chair, respectfully, it's clear we're in a filibuster, which is allowed, but this is the Government Operations Committee, not the Trade Committee or the Finance Committee. This motion is to order the production of specific contracts.
Your point of order,
I'm very interested in commenting on the government's approach to softwood lumber, for example, but that is not the motion. That is not the issue before us. And if the gentleman opposite wants to filibuster, he at least has to do so in a way that is relevant to the topic.
I'm sure Mr. Leteau will get to the motion at hand. Go ahead, Mr. Leteau.
I was just getting there, Mr. Speaker. So we want to achieve what's best for Canada, and what's best for Canada is to maintain our industrial base, of which the auto industry is a major component. So how do we do that? We continue talking to the Americans. We continue discussing. We continue negotiating. And those negotiations are now at a very critical point. And we need to continue doing that, no matter how, unpleasant it might be. Now, back to the motion. As in this context where we are continuing to negotiate with the U.S. administration, the motion, I think, would be very damageable to Canada in this context, in the sense that we would be making public, commercial information contained in commercial contracts, private commercial contracts, and that would damage Canada's reputation as a welcoming site for foreign direct investment, which is the case. Canada welcomes foreign direct investment. We've always done that, and we will continue to do that. What we also said, and the Minister of Industry has said that, what we also said is that we are hugely disappointed in the road that Stellantis took, and they will face the consequences if and when they go ahead with this. But in the meantime, if we are to release those contracts totally without any provisions to keep private information confidential, ce serait, à mon avis, Monsieur le Président.
But in my opinion, Mr. Chairman, it would be very damaging for the reputation of Canada, and especially for the environment we are in right now. I agree with Madame Gaudreau. In Quebec, every dollar counts. Every dollar is very important. And we want to continue to attract foreign investment. And to do that, confidential information has to remain confidential. And if at the end of the process there are contracts broken, those who broke the contract will suffer the consequences. But we will not anticipate the result before we're at the end of the process. And right now, we're in a very delicate period in negotiations with the USA. It would be too bad if we were to spoil this environment at the last minute just for short-term political gain. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Gaudreau, and then I have Mr. Gasparo.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're talking about our motion here. I heard all my colleagues, and I want to come back to the goal of the motion, and I have a proposal. I have a sub-amendment. The objective is for we, as members of the committee, to be able to have the production of copies of the contracts, the protocol. I say this because I've had contracts, and if I didn't achieve my means, accountability was huge. And many people around this table know exactly what I'm talking about. It's not a matter of $20,000. We're talking about billions here. And you know this. I'm not partisan. I'm being very pointed in looking at the objective of our committee. Then we need to know. When I heard this is public information, we have to protect our commerce. There's a crisis. Yes, absolutely. But, and I don't have the wording of all the contracts for all the companies cited here, but this is sent back to the OGO committee. I think it's our job. Tell me if I'm wrong. You've been here longer than I have. But this is our job. Upstream is to make sure that when it comes to government operations, budget predictions, and accountability, and we'll see what happens at public accounts, but this is a grave matter here at this time. I have a proposal which may satisfy everyone. I have to make sure the information is accurate, that it's provided, but it's also protected. So I won't read the whole thing, but at the end, and I'll read it. Provided these documents are deposited with the clerk of the committee within 2 weeks in both official languages, and what I'm proposing here is a sub-amendment, and that the documents be expurgated or redacted in compliance with applicable legislation by a House of Commons jurist. So that's what I'm putting forward. Maybe we can all agree on that, because it's absolutely essential for us to take care of taxpayers who are very worried about the future, not just economic future, but all our industries. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Do you have that in writing that you'd like to distribute?
C'est parti.
Attention to you. I wasn't looking at my phone. I'll start a speaking list on Ms. Gaudreau's amendment. I think you just said it has, right? Thanks, everyone, for your patience. Mr. Genuis, and then Ms. Gaudreau.
Okay, all right. Okay, just quickly, Chair, something, and I know we've got some newer members here, and I want to give people the benefit of the doubt. Like, there is a difference between ordering the production of documents to a committee and ordering documents to be released immediately. So years ago, on the Afghan detainee issue, for example, I know the approach taken by other parties when Conservatives were in government was to order the production of documents for immediate release. And that was contentious under the circumstances. We are not proposing that in this motion. We are proposing that the committee order the production of documents so that the committee can look at those documents and then the committee can make decisions. What the Liberals are proposing, or proposed with their previous amendment, was to order the production of documents but to allow the government unfettered discretion to redact those documents. If that were to happen, we would be getting likely blank pages from the government, as has happened in the past. So what we are saying is that the committee should be able to look at the documents, and the committee should have discretion in its review of the documents. But that's not the same as publicly releasing all the information in them. That allows the committee to exercise responsible discretion once it has those documents. But the committee can exercise that discretion, which is different from the government exercising that discretion to prevent the committee from seeing this. There have been cases in the past, I know, at this committee where we have ordered and received full unredacted contracts, and the committee has approached it very judiciously in terms of what to do with those contracts once received. So some Liberal members are, I think, confusing this issue of ordering the documents versus the public release of the documents, and I think it's important to be very clear on them. What we're proposing now, and I hope this will allow us to move to some consensus, or at least to reveal the true intentions of members, is a sub-amendment that replaces the existing amendment language with the following, and that the departments and agencies tasked with the document production suggest redactions in writing along with the unredacted documents, and that the committee review the suggested redactions in conjunction with the parliamentary law clerk.
Madam?
I'm missing pieces of this because interpretation doesn't have this document he's referring to. This is the most important part that's being proposed by my colleague. Interpretation can't follow.
Well, sorry, I understand that there were some modest revisions from the version I sent to the clerk a moment ago, but I will send a revise now. This is not from my email account. I'm using someone else's email account, but long story. The point is, what we are proposing with the sub-amendment is that the committee should still be able to see these contracts. At the same time, the government should suggest redactions that the committee will then review with the parliamentary law clerk. That allows the committee to exercise responsible discretion around its use of this information, but it does not allow the government to unilaterally decide not to share a whole bunch of information that it doesn't want to share. So I think this is a reasonable process that orders the production of the unredacted contracts and allows proposals for redactions that the committee can then consider with, and I think this is what Ms. Goodrow was envisioning, with the parliamentary law clerk who can advise us appropriately. This is the way to be responsible and to ensure that we have proper accountability. So I hope this will get us to a consensus, again, or at least reveal the true intentions of all around this table. And I'll leave my comments there. Thank you.
Great. I'll start a speaking list on the sub-amendment. I understand the clerk is sending out a new email with the sub-amendment that has slight alterations in French. So that will be coming out shortly. But on the sub-amendment, Ms. Sudds.
Thank you. You know, it's wonderful to see the efforts around the table to get to a place where we can move this forward, as it certainly is an important piece of work to dive into. I would make two comments or two suggestions that I think would strengthen this slightly. As it reads, I think is great. The only thing that I ask is that we specify that the meeting reviewing the documents with the committee would be in camera for obvious reasons, but we don't want to be reviewing the documents in entirety in public. And the second piece just being that any documents that are being circulated would be sent only to our P9s.
We cannot amend a sub-amendment. We'd have to dispose of this first. So perhaps we can dispose of this sub-amendment first, and then perhaps you could propose that. But I'm glad you brought it up.
Sure.
It allows us to have the discussion in a rather informal way that we do. Does anyone else wish to speak on the sub-amendment? Ms. Gaudreau?
Bon, je vais être sûr de bien suivre.
I want to be sure I'm following this properly. The proposals on the table, on our side here, will give us access to important information. I'm thinking of the citizens who will say, fine, you're doing your job, and it'll be in camera. We'll decide, of course, what's important.
Not in camera. We're dealing with Mr. Genuis's sub-amendment to your amendment. Ms. Sudds had suggested in camera, but we'd have to either pass this, then get to your amendment, pass that, and then sub-amend that to add the in camera.
Donc, Monsieur le Président,
I understand what you're saying, but yeah, we'll have to get to that.
Donc, il y a deux options.
Okay, there are two options then. Either we're ready to vote because there are other proposals on the table, or we have a consensus here. That's what I saw at the Procedures Committee when we see that there's consensus on the proposals. But I can withdraw my motion too.
Genuis's sub-amendment that has come out, and that the departments and agencies tasked with the document production suggest redactions, and that the committee reviewed the redactions with the parliamentary law clerk. So it goes to the original amendment offered by the Liberals, which is to have it redacted, and I've seen this before where the officials say this is what we'd like to redact and why, and that's presented to us. So we don't get it redacted, we get this is what we want redacted. So that's what Mr. Genuis had suggested to add to yours. So he was agreeing with yours, but just add that the redactions are reviewed with us. We can add, it's not specified, but we can add that after the fact.
But
I assume. Sorry. Sorry, I was just addressing Ms. Gaudreau first.
Yeah.
So are we clear with that, Ms. Gaudreau?
Entendre mon collègue.
Well, I'd like to.
Je veux justement essayer d'éclaircir, Monsieur le Président. Je pense que mon collègue.
My colleague, Mr. Genuis, I think my colleague, Mr. Genuis, had an amendment instead of Ms. Gaudreau's amendment. So it's not a sub-amendment, it's to completely replace Mr. Genuis's amendment.
So we'd have to vote her amendment down and then introduce his. We can't have him introduce an amendment when we're debating her amendment.
Je comprends, mais un amendement.
I understand that, but an amendment cannot replace or completely replace and do the reverse of what another amendment here. The sub-amendment is not in order because it completely changes. It completely abolishes Ms. Gaudreau's amendment. I just want us to make sure we understand here.
Yeah. So, Monsieur le Président, juste pour...
Mr. Chairman, just to facilitate this, Mr. Chairman, just to facilitate things, I think that if we could have unanimous consent that Ms. Gaudreau withdraw her amendment, we're just talking about the second one, and then we could add the in-camera part. It would be easier than amending something that's not the intent of the committee.
Do the sides get a sense, everyone, all three parties get a sense we're getting to where we want to be at in camera with redacted and that? Can we suspend for like a minute, get everyone together so we can go ahead and draft, so we don't have someone dropping an amendment and then walking out the door?
Mais c'est exactement pour ça, Monsieur le Président, que...
Thanks for minutes. Yes, we are back in. Thank you, everyone, for taking time to try and find a compromise. To move ahead with what I suspect is a whole new amendment, we need to dispose of Mr. Genuis's sub-amendment. I could seek unanimous consent. We'll withdraw that. Next is unanimous consent. I blame Air Canada. Thanks to Air Canada, it took me 13 and a half hours to get to your from Edmonton, arriving at 9 in the morning. We have to withdraw Ms. Gaudreau's amendment. Wonderful. Now I understand Ms. Suds has an amendment.
I am opening it. In essence, thank you. As this is doing its thing here, I think, Mr. Chair and colleagues, I mean, the goal here is really to be able to move forward together, to be able to take a look at these documents and ensure that we do right by the Canadian public and the auto sector. As we were stating earlier, there's definitely concerns around unredacted documents and ensuring that we maintain the confidentiality of commercial dealings, as one would expect, and as a government certainly we believe that we should be doing to ensure that commercially sensitive and confidential documents are maintained. Public disclosure of these documents is, frankly, not only illegal, but it also diminishes our reputation as a country, as a jurisdiction for foreign investment. And, at a time when the U.S. market has essentially closed off, and there's certainly, across government, many efforts to open new global markets, unlock new opportunities for our businesses and our workers, I think it's counterproductive and would do more harm than good in these documents being made publicly available. And that's the chief primary concern here on this side. I think publicly disclosing these contracts implicates thousands of workers whose jobs are tied to these contracts.
Can I interrupt for a sec? I think we're going to have the amendment. You're welcome to speak to your amendment, but we should do the amendment first.
Sure.
Right. Which we all got.
Can I just read the addition, Chair? Please. Yeah. So the addition to the amendment is that the departments and agencies tasked with the document production, suggest redactions in writing, along with the unredacted documents, and that the committee review the suggested redactions in camera in conjunction with the parliamentary law clerk, and that the documents be distributed to
It should be distributed to the members' emails. So if you just read that, just change that to,
distributed to P9s?
no, to the members' emails.
That's
It's a technical thing. Yeah, we'll just change it to that, to the members' emails. So the clerk's suggestion.
not our general emails, but our staff.
To our members' emails.
Members' emails.
Yes.
Got you. Okay. And that the documents be distributed to our members' emails only for 4 to be named Liberal members, 1 to be named Bloc Québécois member, 3 to be named Conservative members, plus the chair.
Perfect. And I'm just going to address the issue about named members. This is, again, instead of having the specific OGO members, if a party, it'll be decided by the whip's office. If it's someone outside the normal committee will view it, then that will be the person that continues to be able to access that. So we're clear on that? Yeah. Wonderful. You can continue, you can speak on your amendment, or we can open up to the floor for speaking list.
Go ahead.
Right. Are we, oh, Mr. Gasparo on the amendment?
I think it's absolutely critical that whenever we are looking at documents just more broadly, and my honorable colleague from the bloc, who's a business person, which you can tell, is that, again, we look towards the long term and the long-term implications of what happens when we request the distribution of documents more broadly, because it could have long-term implications to not only this government, but future governments. And, way too often politicians get accused to this, around the short-termism. And I think this is a perfect opportunity that we have to look to the long term and what can happen to future governments if we do not, protect this incredibly sensitive economic information, and that we ensure that future governments are able to enter into agreements and without having critical information be disclosed that could harm the company more, any future company more broadly, because simply we need to attract that foreign direct investment. So I think that just a warning for this. And I know it's weird because I'm a new MP, and I've been here for a hot second, but I think this is something that we just have to continue to focus on. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Can we get to a vote then, please, on the amendment? And then we'll vote on the amended motion. Do we need we'll do a recorded vote?
Mr. Gasparo?
In favor.
Monsieur Létard? Oui. Madame Rochefort? Pouce en haut, pouce en bas?
Thumb up. Thumb up?
Oui, OK. Ms. Sodds?
In favor?
Monsieur Berthold?
Oui.
Madame Jensen?
Oui.
Ms. Kirkland?
Yes.
Madame Gaudreau?
Oui.
OK, yeas pour 8, and nays contre 0.
Amendment carries. Thank you. On the amended motion, we'll do a recorded vote. On the amended motion, so we passed your amendment. So now we have the motion as a whole.
Ready?
Yep. Go ahead.
Mr. Gasparo?
Sorry, but now that we passed this,
Sorry,
We passed her amendment.
I'm just sorry. I'm just trying to.
Yeah, so we
figure-
passed Ms. Sudd's amendment.
So does it make
now,
the next?
So now it's to pass the original motion as amended.
As we have
As amendment, yeah, so we did the amendment, now the motion as amended.
So I apologize, Chair.
Oh, that's okay.
So, okay. So
Wait till we get into sub-amendments, the sub-amendments.
Oh my God. Okay. So I'm assuming we're voting then for this as we just voted, right? Wouldn't it just be the same?
Exactly, you understand well.
I don't know if I understand well.
That's the thing to do.
Well, okay.
Gasparro?
Don't pull down the government.
Yes.
Monsieur Létard?
Yes.
Madame Rochefort? Oui, pouce en haut. Ms. Sudds?
Yes.
Monsieur Berthold?
Oui.
Ms. Jensen?
Yes.
Ms. Kirkland?
Yes?
Madame Gaudreau?
Oui.
Yeas pour 8, 8, and nays contre 0, 0.
Wonderful, passed. Leave it with the clerk and I, and I'll get back to the vice chairs about how we'll move forward with dates and location for that. I think we said within 2 weeks, but leave it with us. We'll figure out, but we'll get back to the vice chairs. With that, nothing else. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone, for your cooperation.